Let us dive in to our elongated story of today. Okay. Before we do that, you said Dom says I would see it in theaters, maybe not opening weekend, but somewhere during its run. Yeah. I might see it opening weekend, but I'm definitely going to see it during its run for sure. Now, buckle in, peeps, buckle in for this last story. We are going to be talking about the interview that Kevin Feige did. Again, this was earlier this week. What day are we on? Yeah. He did more recently. This wasn't last week. Last week, like everybody else said. No. This is this week. There were a lot of reporters. I'm not going to say a lot. There was like a press interview that he did with a few reporters, right? And this article we are looking at is from Variety, and it says Kevin Feige on Marvel Studios' future, focusing on lower budgets, less TV, and more Robert Downey Jr. Look at Superman. It's clearly not superhero fatigue, which is a direct quote from Kevin Feige. Now, in this article, which we are not going to read every single bit of this article, but we are going to dive in, because when we're looking at his take on the future of Marvel, the current state of Marvel, and the past of Marvel, this article really makes me feel like he missed the mark on the actual issues that are wrong. One of two things. Either he misses the mark on what's actually been wrong, or he's providing corporate speak because he can't really say what is actually wrong. But the shots that he gives makes me feel like he just misses the mark. But let's dive in, all right? It starts off with them talking about how when people had asked about things like Shang-Chi and Eternals, or a bit of both. Yes, We Ninja says maybe a bit of both. It could be a bit of both. It actually might be more of a bit of both. But they were talking about how they kicked in gear after Endgame, right? And he did say he saw Superman, but we are going to dive into that a little bit later. But in the room that they had the interview in, they're in a conference room at Marvel Studios on the Disney lot. And right on the other side of the door, he says that which was padlocked, which, yes, I get that's completely necessary, 100% necessary, but would be crazy to see. I'm not going to lie. I would like to be a fly on the wall on this one. But he gestured to the wall and he said that behind them are the plans for the next 7 years of the MCU. He said right now he thinks that it goes to the plans for their releases up until 2032, which is crazy, but needs to be done. It needs to be done. But it's still a crazy thing. I thought, like, wow, 7 years of content behind this door. Not gonna lie, I want to break it. I'm not going to, but I want to, you do too. We could think about something together. No, I'm just kidding. So, he was talking about kind of one of the issues when it comes to what the state of Marvel post Endgame. Before Endgame, they had, between 2007 and 2019, which is 12 years, they had about 100 hours of stories. But after, they had 127 hours of story throughout this whole multiverse saga that they started post Endgame. He goes on to say that with the tone of Marvel, that projects like Eternals and Shang-Chi were experimental, and I guess experimental in testing the waters on how Marvel could evolve, or the MCU could evolve and could change. But when it comes to Disney Plus, the focus was in expansion. He said that after Endgame, there was a mandate, especially with the expansion of Disney Plus, there was a mandate to really, really push out content. Okay. He said that what we also ended up focusing on because Disney Plus was expansion, and it's that expansion that I think led people to say it used to be fun. And I'm gonna try. Yeah, right here. What we also ended up focusing on because of Disney Plus was expansion, and it's that expansion that I think led people to say it used to be fun, but now do I have to know everything about all of these, right? And which leads us to think that one of the problems he thinks is an issue for the MCU is the fact that the audience may feel inundated by the details, the crossovers, the Easter eggs, and that he thinks that that's a problem, an issue that contributes to the decline of the success of Marvel movies and TV shows. I disagree. We'll talk about that in a second. Consequently, Feige believes the well-documented problems Marvel has been facing over the last few years stem from an overabundance of supply. Hold on, I just want to make sure that this is in shot. Yeah, it is. An overabundance of supply, not a sudden drop in demand. I'm kind of in the middle on this one, right? Where he said that it's not an issue of people not wanting to see superhero movies. And he mentioned Superman because Superman grossed 407 million globally to date at the time that this article is released, and is clearly not superhero fatigue. And we've talked about this before, how it's like the clickbait title whenever there's a superhero movie. Are we fatigued of superheroes? Are we fatigued? Honestly, it's just clickbait, because if you didn't care, you wouldn't talk about it. But clearly you wanted to put something that will draw in eyes. We're clearly not tired of superheroes. Comic book sales are still a thing. Numbers are arguable, but it's still a thing. We want them in our video games. We want them on our TVs. We want them in our theaters. There is no fatigue from superheroes. There's a fatigue from poor execution of movies, but not a fatigue of actual superheroes. This is where I say close but no cigar on his take as far as an issue that people may have. Let me scroll down here. You said, I'm not tired because I started watching the MCU after Endgame. So you're just jumping on. Yeah, it's not a fatigue of superheroes and their existence and things like that. He also goes on to say that Marvel's dramatic increase in volume spread Marvel far too thin. And this is something that apparently him and Bob Iger both agree on. Bob Iger agrees that it spread them far too thin for their small team of execs to keep up. This is possibly true. I'm not an entertainment CEO or exec, so knowing how many executives you should have per the amount of projects that you're doing, I don't know, right? So this is possibly true. It's possibly true. Anything before Spider-Man Far From Home, didn't watch. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So like pretty much almost everything. Almost everything. I got you. Almost everything. Now, this is where I take issue. Okay. He says starting in 2023, audiences began to sour on Marvel's. This is not what he says. This is what the article says. Sour on Marvel's content on the big and small screen. As Variety reported in June, only 3 of the 22 films in the Infinity Saga, which was the Thanos saga that ended at Endgame, okay? Only 3 of them grossed less than 500 million worldwide. That means that the other 19 did 500 million or more worldwide when they were in theaters. Since the pandemic, however, 7 out of 13 movies in the MCU have failed to reach that milestone. Viewership for Marvel streaming shows, meanwhile, has also steadily declined. According to data from Luminate, most recently, Thunderbolts, which earned some of the best reviews Marvel's received in years, has only grossed $380 million globally. Feige says that he thinks that Thunderbolts was a very, very good movie, but nobody knew that title and which is true. Nobody really knew that title. And many of those characters were from a TV show. Well, I guess from other properties, because some of them are from the movies and some of them are, because you had a chick from Ant-Man movie. You had Winter Soldier from the movie and the TV show. You had, goodness, Black Widow's sister from the movie and the TV show. And then you had the dad from the movie and the TV show. So this issue that he keeps mentioning of some audiences still feeling that notion of, I guess I have to have seen these other shows to understand who this is. And he keeps putting this in as this is an issue. This is the issue that people feel as the reason that they may be fatigued from the MCU, is that they might be inundated with these Easter eggs and these crossovers and these things like that. But let's reel it back here a second, where they talk about numbers here in regards to the grossing of the films since the pandemic. Okay. Starting in 2023, the article says that the audience has become sour, but they had mentioned that post the pandemic, the numbers have been decreased. And to that I say, Godoy, okay? It was the pandemic. When you look at the consumer spending report, the U.S. consumer spending report, right? You see this dip here? You see this dip here? You look here? That's during the pandemic. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people lost their lives. A lot of people were transitioned into a different type of income. A lot of people were laid off. So when you have that situation where money is affected, it is a domino effect, right? Yes, this number does increase, but it equates to a relative, not huge difference, especially when you throw in things like inflation and how there's a decision that has to be made between purchasing eggs and buying a movie ticket, because movie tickets have also increased, gas has increased, food has increased, groceries have increased. And during the pandemic, what were people paying the most money on? They were paying the most they could on groceries. That included toilet paper, paper towel, medicines, things to help them either not get sick, or if they are sick, to possibly survive COVID, right? So that's what they spent their money on. When you look at box office numbers and this is on Box Office Mojo, that is by IMDb Pro, look at the spending. When you look at 2019, the total domestic, meaning the US, gross, what was that? That scared me. Oh, the alarm. That the most that the box office as a whole grossed was $11 billion in 2019. In 2020, only $2 billion, a fraction of what it was prior to the pandemic. What was happening then? Theaters were closed down. We were stuck at home. 2021, things opened up a little bit more, right? It doubled in price to $4 million. Then in 2022, it was $7 million, 2023, $8 million, 2024, the same. And this year right now, we're slated to either equate to 2024 or either meet or surpass 2024 with box office total grossing, right? We're a little bit more than half of the way through the year. So to make that statement of, hey, the movies aren't doing that well because we put too many movies out, or the movies aren't doing that well because they, because fans feel like, or audiences feel like they have to follow the plot from from production to production, or movie to TV show, or what have you, in order to really know who these characters are, really just shows how disconnected that these billionaires are from the actual paying audience that purchases these tickets. The box office as a whole, right, was severely affected when it came to numbers, because when it came to buying things, it was life or death. And no one was thinking about, hey, let me go to the movies, right? So to have this standpoint or this mindset, it just really shows that there are certain specific things that they looked at, and they didn't look at the whole picture and how everybody was affected. When you look at let me see right here, Avengers, right? Avengers. So on this, I really like this report because it shows you what the number one release was in each of these years. In 2012, when it was 10 billion, the Avengers was the number one release of that year. Iron Man 3 came in the following year. Guardians of the Galaxy the following year. We skip a couple of years, we've got Black Panther 2018. The following year, we've got Avengers Endgame, right? Then 2 years later, we've got Spider-Man No Way Home. So it is not that people don't want to see these movies, and it's not that people don't feel fatigued from superhero movies, and it's not that they feel fatigued from following plots and Easter eggs, which I think is one of the most beautiful things of the world building of the MCU, are these crossovers, are these connective tissues that they have that are so strong, are these Easter eggs that they put for one project over here and another project over here. It's really fun, and especially when you have the bloggers and the social media folks that are like throwing out theories. Oh, that is like that is honestly the juice of the MCU, are those fan theories. Yes, drama ensues, but that's the world we live in, right? But that's the juice of it. So money was not as much money was brought in because everybody was suffering, because everybody was shut down, because everybody had to get new jobs or the same jobs if it was still available. And then now that they've gotten their jobs back, the first thing people were doing post pandemic wasn't going to the movies. Hello? They were at home. They went to work. They maybe went to see family members, things like that. So let's think a little bit more when we make these declarations, let's think a little bit more. Going down a little bit, I kind of went down a little rant there. They do talk about how Marvel will be having a lower or less output, right? Marvel's feature output is slowing down, so they're going to at most put out 3 films a year. And the TV output is cooling off even further, which reminds me, because they're only going to be doing 1 live action show per year, which again, they were saying how the Marvel TV show data was steadily declining, and he felt that it was because of the connective tissue. He felt that maybe they were putting out too many projects. Wrong. Again, I disagree. The issue with the TV shows is the Disney construct for Disney Plus. When Marvel said that when Disney said they were going to give their Marvel shows the movie production budgets, we were all excited. We were all like, oh, and when they slated, oh, we're going to have a Loki show. We're going to have a Black Panther, not a Black Panther show. What was the show? A Falcon show. We're going to have a Dora Milaje show. We're going to have a Wakanda show. We're going to have all these things. And everybody was so excited, right? And just like Weed Ninja says, it was quality that was the issue. It was not the fact that you guys had so many shows. It was the fact that under the Disney Plus construct, these shows would have to tell a huge story in the span of 6 to 9 episodes per season, with an average of 30 to 40 minutes per episode. Now, when you think of movie production budgets, you think of shows that their counterparts like Game of Thrones, which were on average 45 to 50 minutes. I would actually never say 45, probably like 50 to an hour minutes. When you have shows like Squid Game, right? Which were like closer to the hour mark. When you have these other big budget shows that quality is put into it, they're intentional, they are longer. And the reason I say it's a Disney construct is because we see the same issue with their Star Wars shows and their other properties. We see it with the Marvel shows. We see it with the Star Wars shows, where they're forced to tell this big, grandiose story in such a tiny, tiny, tiny amount of time and amount of episodes in a season. If you're going to have, on average, they should have 10 to 12 episodes and they should be hour long. So that way these writers and these directors and these creatives can have the time to tell the story that they want to tell. It's really, you can't take like the movie budget, movie production as like as a huge thing and try to put it in like it's a thread and a needle. It's like taking a really thick yarn and trying to stick it in a very tiny needle. You're not really going to find much success, if any success. So if you whittle this down to just one live action show per year, instead of everybody being upset at the 5 shows, we're just going to be upset at the 1 show, because if the construct doesn't change, you're going to run into the same exact problems. Some of the properties really suffered. Some of the projects really, really suffered. And pacing was the common thread, because these writers had to tell these big, huge stories with 5 seconds of time. Some people were able to pull off a great, really close, really good story, but a lot of them were strays. A lot of them were hits and misses. A lot of misses. Okay. But lowering the amount does not mean that, okay, we're going to have better quality. If you're still doing the same thing, it doesn't matter how many of them you're doing. 1 or 5. If it's the same, it's going to be the same, baby. That's how it works. That's how it works. We Ninja says Netflix Daredevil had a good... Yes. The Netflix shows had a good formula and had a good execution with how they were telling these stories. The MCU under the Disney helm, how are they going to do that with the TV shows going forward? It begs to be seen. If the bargaining table is, hey, future shows are going to be longer, have longer seasons, and have longer episodes, then I could see a potential of this being better. Because clearly these writers, these directors, these creatives need more time to tell their story. They need more time. In this paragraph, he also talks about how, because again, he has this notion in his mind that it's the Easter eggs, it's the overlap, as he says, right? He was talking about how the shows they do will make that they'll make will have far less overlap with the movies than previous shows have, as far as the Disney Plus MCU merger, right? He cites shows like Daredevil, Jessica Jones, the Netflix shows, and the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agent Carter, where these shows were MCU shows, but there wasn't a lot of overlap. In fact, in the movies, there's practically no mention of a lot of the drama that ensues in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Normally the overlap is just the fact that S.H.I.E.L.D. is involved, right? So he's saying that they will have that connect. There will be less overlap, if any at all. He did say it's not ironclad, but they are going to have some characters still kind of carry over, like Punisher. He is going to be in the Spider-Man movie that is slated for 2026, Brand New Day. It is going to include him. And so there is going to be, and it is going to be this John Bernthal, the character he's created, the character that he's collaborated and birthed, is going to be in the movie, but he hasn't made it very clear how much of the overlap is going to be removed. Does this mean no more end credit cutscenes with Easter eggs, for other properties? Does this mean more standalone stories that do not feed into other heroes' stories? Does this mean we're going to have non-involved stories? One of the things that he mentioned, I guess, that I won't spoil it because I didn't see the movie, but I read it in the article. Something that happens at the end of Thunderbolt, someone had asked, does that thing affect season 2 of Daredevil, Born Again? He said no, which does draw concern for me, because one of my favorite things was the world building, and the overlap was one of my most favorite things about the MCU. So the fact that you're taking that away, A, makes me feel like you missed the mark on the issues, and B, makes me concerned. When he talks about Miles being in the movie, or wait, hold on, scrolling up. about Blade. Let's talk about Blade. He said he does give an update on Blade with Mahershala Ali, because that's who we want for Blade. He confirmed that it will be, he does provide an update. He says that if you click on the article and look further, he says that they are still, it is still happening. It is still happening, but you don't get a lot of details on how, when, any of that. The only things we do know is that it's something that'll potentially come after 2027 when they have Secret Wars, which will not only conclude the multiverse saga, but it will also reset the entire MCU, and including a new cast for X-Men, which we knew X-Men was coming. We knew we would get a different cast. We knew he wasn't going to carry on the Fox thing, right? But I'm anticipating after the reset, that's when we're going to get our Blade. What does that look like? I don't know. He kind of cites the reason for the delays on the aspect of not having a good script, and that was like a part of the issue, alongside with them having too many projects, and that's why they held Ironheart for 2 years and Wonder Man, which is still supposed to come out in December of this year. But I don't buy that. I don't buy that. I don't think it was an because you had a situation where 2 directors left the project. I don't think it was an aspect of the scripts were I don't think that was the case at all. Going down, Miles Morales. Now, everybody's like, Miles, we want a live action Miles, which I too want a live action Miles. Let me know who you think should play live action Miles. I like some of the fan suggestions for it, by the way, but let me know who you think should play. But the important thing, right, when we scroll down here, is where he says that until Sony Pictures, which holds the film rights to the character, completes its animated Miles trilogy with the 2027 Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, Feige explained, we've been told to stay away. Which means that publicly, they're not allowed to work on anything in regards to Miles until the movie is completed. The animated movie is completed and aired. That is when they can start working on it, which I think, or I theorize that we're going to get one in 2029, because in 2027, they're going to do the reset, right? That's what he said. He's going to do the reset in 2027. Let me scroll up really quick. Yeah, they're going to be doing the reset in 2027. So that's when I think that they will have, they will bring him in 2029. That's probably when they'll start working on it and publicly start working on it, because they're obviously thinking things, but they can't publicly say. So when they start drafting and writing and all the other stuff, I think we'll have something in 2029 for Miles. Now, the other thing he talks about, and this is something that I do think they should change potentially, he talks about the Marvel strategy, right? So James Gunn had said that he personally, for the DC side, is not going to greenlight any project that does not have a complete script, which is the opposite of Marvel. Marvel has many a project announced and not even had a writer or a script or a director or even a cast for the potential projects. In fact, for Fantastic Four, Ebon Moss-Bachrach, hopefully I said his name right, said that, and he plays a thing in Fantastic Four, said that the script, he didn't think the script was fully ready when the cast began 3 weeks of rehearsal before filming. So we were sort of workshopping the movie in a way. That draws concern. That does draw concern. I do feel like going in, they should go in with more intention. Not that they don't go in with any. They do go in with some, but they need to go in with more intention if they want to have better reception for their projects. And again, it's not about the Easter eggs, and it's not about fatigue. It's not about over production. It's about execution. But Feige said that he wants to continue to do projects that certain way where he said we've never started a movie without a full script, and I have never been satisfied with a script that we've had. That's not actually true, because Iron Man, both main actors in Iron Man have said how there wasn't even a script for Iron Man, and they would have days with no sides, and they would go in and just create a movie. It was very guerrilla when it came to making the movie. So that's not necessarily true. Either he's lying or they lying. Somebody's lying. But he did say he's never been satisfied with the script that we've had, and he's never been satisfied with a movie that they've released. Now, on one hand, this could be artist speak. When an artist makes something and is like never satisfied with their work, they want to keep tilling and toiling and working on it until it's absolute perfection. It could be that. On the other hand, it draws concern for okay, the scripts that you're receiving, who's writing them? Maybe a direction needs to be changed on who's writing the scripts. If it's a thing, maybe a blending direction, bring in new writers, but keep in some of the old, so that way you keep the spirit of the MCU, but having the new writers in there and having that blend could potentially create a beautiful project that could be more meaningful, that could be more better received, more fleshed out, more intentional. It's very common for productions to switch scripts. Rewrites are, if you have a movie with no rewrites, that's more rare, okay? Reshoots, all those things, yes, that's the norm, and we get it. But if more is done on the front end versus when you're in the trenches, then maybe that's the thing that you should focus on to fix, instead of taking away part of the beauty of the MCU with the overlap. And again, that mindset of overproduction. There were a lot of Marvel projects. Yes, there were a lot of Marvel projects. But that's not the main reason that the MCU has been in decline. Pay attention. Let me know your thoughts. What do you guys think? I did kind of go in. I did kind of go in on Kevin Feige. I still like him. I respect him. I feel like the fact that he started from the bottom, now he's here. I know we don't like Drake now, but still, since he did that, that's awesome. That's fantastic. That's really, really cool. But up there, I think the clouds kind of blur the vision a little bit. So I think he needs to put on the binoculars and look at the everyday man and what their experience is like when watching these properties. But that is it from me. I would love to know your thoughts on all of the topics that we talked about today, and on this topic as well, and the future of cinema. Where do you think, how do you think movies are you excited for the future of cinema? Are you like, are there certain things you're like, yeah, I'm excited for this, but not excited for that? Let me know. I would love to know more of your opinions and everything down below.